Okay, so you know how we talked about doing a deep dive into overload?
Yeah, that Terence Hughes Nohead music track, right?
That's the one. And you mentioned this whole feeling of being spun around by circumstance, just this constant frantic pace.
Yeah, exactly. Like never getting a chance to catch your breath.
Well, I think that's something a lot of folks listening can relate to. So let's jump into these lyrics and see what they tell us about that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, overloaded.
Sounds good. And I think Overload is a perfect track for exploring this. I mean, right from that first line, you're living in a jet lag, you're immediately thrown into that feeling of being off kilter, out of sync.
Yeah, like your internal clock is totally messed up.
Exactly. It's like trying to adjust to a time zone that doesn't even exist, a constant state of catch up.
Hmm. And then it goes on to say, happiness is oversold, smiles and grins all around you.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It makes you think about all the pressure to always be happy, like
Hmm.
we're supposed to be projecting this image of perfect contentment all the time.
And could that pressure, that constant performance of happiness, actually be contributing to the feeling of overload?
I think it definitely could because it creates this disconnect between how we're supposed to feel and how we actually feel. Like you're putting on a show, but inside you're exhausted.
Yeah.
It's almost like a paradox. The harder we try to be happy, the more stressed we get.
Absolutely. And then the song paints this really vivid picture of what that overload feels like. People, crowds, cars, lives, they go floating by, never a moment to stop.
Oh, man, that's so spot on. It's that feeling of just being swept along by everything, like you're on this crazy conveyor belt with no off switch.
No control, just caught in the current.
Right. And, when you're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation like that, it's no wonder you start to feel mentally exhausted.
And then it hits you with that line, life will grab what you got.
Oh, that's a heavy one. It's like this constant drain on your energy, your resources, your time, and it just keeps taking more and more.
But then there's this shift. It's like this desperate attempt to escape. So you drive on down the high street, drive on over the hill. Got to take it easy away from the overkill.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost primal, this urge to get away from it all, to find some peace and quiet.
To find a place where life isn't constantly grabbing at you.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point.
Mm.
It's recognizing that you can't exist in that state of overload forever. You need to create some distance, some space to breathe.
And then we hit the chorus. Living in overload, you can't take it anymore. When they have taken enough, they take a little more.
Oh man, that just sums it up perfectly. It's like you're at your breaking point, but the demands just keep piling on. It never ends.
And who is they in this context?
Well, it could be anything, really. It could be your job, your family, your own internal expectations, societal pressures, anything that's demanding more than you can give.
That's a good point. It's like this never-ending cycle of demands.
Yeah, and the repetition in that line, they take a little more, it really emphasizes that relentlessness. Like it's never enough. You're always being pushed further and further.
But then the song offers a possible solution. You got to look back if you want to see beyond the static, the panic, the people, and the crash attack.
Right, and that's such a crucial point. You need to step back, take a breath, and try to see the bigger picture. Otherwise, you'll get lost in all the noise, the static, the panic.
You'll just keep reacting instead of responding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, that crash attack, it could be burnout, a breakdown, a complete loss of control.
And then to really drive home the point, we get these incredibly powerful lines. There is too much weight here, too much load, too much to carry, feel like you're gonna explode.
It's raw emotion, pure and simple. It's that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders.
And it's not just mental or emotional, it's physical too.
Yeah, it's this feeling of being completely drained, exhausted, like your body's about to give out. It's a powerful reminder that overload can take a serious toll on your well-being.
So, thinking back to your experience, does overload really capture that feeling of being spun around by circumstance, that frantic pace you were talking about?
Absolutely. It nails it. The pressure, the relentless demands, that feeling of being trapped in a cycle you can't escape, it's all there in those lyrics.
And it highlights the importance of finding ways to escape that cycle, even if it's just for a few moments, to step back, breathe, and look back so you can find a way to move forward without exploding.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So for everyone listening, as you go about your day, think about those lines from Overload, what feels like too much weight in your life, and what's one small thing you could do today to look back, to create a little space for yourself amidst all the chaos. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
It has. We'll catch you next time.
That was good.
All right, take care.
You too.